back to the Kingsway Podcast.
Welcome.
Glad you're here. Hey, I got a fun one today.
It is a fun one. It feels weird. It feels like we shouldn't be doing this.
No. I think it is perfectly justified.
Maybe this is the appendix to our stories series.
Absolutely.
That's what I'm thinking.
Once in a while, something comes along that is worthy of your time for a lot of different reasons. I feel like it's like enjoying something amazing.
Yeah.
Call it the best pizza you've ever had, or for you, like ice cream or the dessert. I don't know what your favorite, like if you had like a favorite food, what would it be?
I don't know. I mean, any dessert that's bready with cinnamon stuff in it.
Yeah.
But also like food in general, like all coffee.
Dude,
I'm interested in.
I had
a
stuffed ice cream stuffed churro one time, and I still think about it.
Like it haunts me to this day.
But we're not talking about food today, though. We're talking about something completely different. I'm just trying to use it in terms of why it's worthy of our time. Because if we did a whole episode on our favorite food, people would watch it.
Yeah.
And we might do that.
Maybe. I don't know. We did like 2 or 3 around Thanksgiving.
Yeah, we did. Yeah. Favorite. Yeah. And those were fun.
Yeah.
Now, if you're wondering why we're stalling, we're not. We're just chatting.
And
maybe we're
stalling.
About it. This movie that we're going to be talking about today broke $1 billion the other day. Did you hear that?
There are $1 billion in half that no one can use. It's broken.
It's broken. It broke.
I didn't hear that.
So it has now grossed, I think it's like second or third all time. It's catching up to Avatar.
That's insane.
Isn't that insane? Like, so if you're not aware, if you've been living under a rock or you haven't talked to anyone, Top Gun just released their, like, I guess it's a sequel, but it's kind of like a continuation, but it's like 30 years later.
Yeah, it's a sequel.
It's a sequel.
You can say it's a sequel.
It's like a retirement party. No.
Yes. Yeah. It's like, remember that time that we did that? Let's do that again.
Yep. So if you haven't seen it, this is where we're going to say this. There are spoilers going to be talked about. So if you have not watched Top Gun and you've clicked on this, this is the moment where you have to decide, are you the type of person that doesn't want spoilers? Are you the type of person that wants to talk about this anyways? Or if you've watched the movie, this is going to be a fun discussion. Yeah. I think you should join in.
And if you haven't seen it, just know that everyone else in the world has seen it. How many people does it take to give this movie $1 billion?
I don't know, but
that's a lot of people.
I mean, I've seen it twice.
I've seen it twice.
Whoops. So, I mean, all right. So let's just get into it. If you're watching still, you know that those spoilers are coming. The movie itself, probably one of the funnest, like, joy rides. Makes you laugh, cry, celebrate, cheer. I mean, both times I watched the movie, there were moments where the crowd cheered. Like, I'm like, what crowd participation? The room gets so quiet, and then it laughs, and then it cries. Yeah. And I mean, it's just such a well done movie. If you don't know anything about it, there was a movie in the late 80s, early 90s that came out called Top Gun, one of Tom Cruise's first original, like, super good movies.
Yeah.
Around the F-16s with Val Kilmer and the doctor from ER that I can never remember his name.
Mr. ER.
He's Goose.
Yeah.
But it was really popular, very good. It was kind of like the first kind of sign of, like, what it's like to fly an F-16 off of a carrier. And, like, some of the training that goes on in their top Air Force training school. I guess it's Navy. But anyway, it was really popular. But this movie I thought was a money grab. I'm not going to lie. Because when it first got released, I was like, oh, gosh, they're just coming back in to grab some money.
But I think the trend for money grab sequels has been making them actually really good. From the past 3-4 years to where, I mean, this kind of in my head, I know I'm young and so it's got to be something else, but in my head it started with Toy Story, where 1 was great.
Yeah.
And then 2 was like really good. And then 3 was great.
Yeah.
And 4 was really great. Yep. And they just kept not messing up the next one. And I was like, but it's Toy Story. Nobody else can do that. And then the past couple of years with Marvel putting out movies 26, 27, whatever, like in their same cinematic universe that all story-wise touch each other, that like they're all, I don't want to say this, but they're all good. There's a base level of goodness for a Marvel movie.
Yeah. Oh, no.
That, like,
superhero movies they absolutely give you what you're looking for.
It may not be that original. It could be, but some of them aren't that original. They're just a well-told story that is another version of the same kind of story. And there's those kind of setup that sequels and continuations can be good.
For sure. And I think you're hitting on a good point. I mean, like there is like a safety net that the cinemas kind of shifted into where like they want to know that a movie's going to do well because they don't want to lose a bunch of money. So they're going to do the sequels. They're going to stay in their vein. They're going to do what they know. But they're also trying to create a good product.
And it feels like only recently they started trying to do that.
Dude, 100%.
Like for years and years, every
100%.
sequel was garbage.
Well, it was like on VHS. You remember? It's like
Yeah,
the Return of
straight to
Jafar. You know, you're
Yeah.
like, oh, cool. Like it's the VHS version. Of
Lion King 1.5. Get out of here. Get out of here.
I mean, I totally get it. However, I do feel like with this movie, what took it to the next level was when I started reading about how they filmed some of this stuff. And having to create a new gyro camera that could like stabilize and like
so you can film the
so
pilots.
you can film these pilots that are flying actual F-18s and actually doing what's in the movie. And the actors and actresses are like going through survival like boot camp for like being in these actual
all
planes.
this breath training and G-force training.
Oh my gosh.
Tom Cruise is just eating it up, breaking ankles left and right, and still walking. I'm kidding. That's a Mission Impossible
That's
joke.
a Mission Impossible joke. That's a good joke.
Like,
dude,
he went up to Miles Teller after he cut his finger during a scene, and he was like, "Oh, you think you can go on? You can keep going with the movie?" And Miles was like, "Yeah, I just need a Band-Aid and I'll keep going." He's like, "Yeah, I broke my ankle in Mission Impossible and still finished the scene." ran on that broken ankle.
On the broken ankle. I remember.
Okay.
Dude, and the thing about the movie that I think if you watch it and if you've seen it, I watched it the second time thinking, oh, some of the intensity of the fight scenes or the training scenes that they do in the planes, it'll probably die down. No, like I still was like dodging things at times. I was still like, whoa, like I mean, it makes the whole movie work. Because every conversation, everything they're talking about, the intensity of those flight shots, make everything feel real, like overly real, like overtly real.
It's a trend in filmmaking and TV that I've seen happen for a couple years, where CGI got big. I mean, it was big for a while, and it's still big, but it got big around the prequels for Star Wars, and so many people just straight poo-pooed all over 1, 2, and 3, and I think they have a right to, because I think there was so much lacking, so much realism that was lacking in lieu of let's just shove as much crap as we can on screen. But like when you watch Obi-Wan now in the interviews, the new Obi-Wan show, 6 episodes at Disney Plus, whatever.
Yeah.
You watch them interview Obi-Wan or Ewan McGregor and Hayden Christensen, Obi-Wan and Anakin from those, and they say they like them, and there's people give it too much crap, but at the same time, CGI and learning how to be an actor in a CGI movie was so new. So every scene they shot was them on green screen with green screen, looking at nothing, adding something in later, not even a tennis ball on a stick, just having to imagine something's there, imagine something barked at you or growled, or imagine somebody's trying to fight you and whatever. And when you watch the behind the scenes stuff for that, you're like, yeah, they did the best they could with what they had.
Yep.
Natalie Portman is a great actress. Ewan McGregor is a great actor. Samuel L. Jackson's a great actor. But it was all like flub after flub of like emotionless scenes and dialogue, because nothing's actually there in front of you. And so we realized we could do CGI. We wanted to do that for the big special effects, but the acting and therefore the storytelling lost some depth.
Huge depth.
So coming back to Top Gun, they're adding all this realism back in because they know, yes, we could add in pilots. We could record these actors flying simulators in a little thing, and the danger will, like, they'll just have to act the danger. But then real pilots will do the real stunt work, or we'll CGI in the planes later. But instead, they put the actors through the training so that the danger on their face, in their emotions, is real.
It's real. 100%.
And that's why I feel like for a while movies were just trying to get flashier, bigger and bigger with more deaths, more blood, more gore, more whatever. That's something I love about Top Gun Maverick. Spoiler alert. No human being dies violently. There is one death from illness. But for a movie for like the Navy, for pilots, for war combat, not a single human being dies for sure. There is some like aircraft like hit, blown up or whatever, but like you never know if like they ejected out of there with their parachute. So like nobody necessarily died in the entire movie. But it's still intense.
Oh, and to the very end, you're not sure if everybody is going to make it.
Yeah.
And I think that's what makes the movie so intense too, is they do such a good job of telling you how dangerous this is.
Yeah.
And then the realism amps that up. And then the intensity of what they're trying to do is pushing the limits to what even a human can do, or bending the plane in order to see if it can even do what you're asking it to do. And so it's like the whole time it's basically like trying to like you're like, is this even possible? You know, and I think the movie has all that going for it. And just if it was just that, it would be great. But because it ties into the nostalgia, and then it ties into a lifelong military guy that's trying to figure out who he is at the end of his life. And he's discovering that who he's with is almost as important as what he's doing. And so he's got these people in his life that he starts to go like, I would give all this up as long as I get to be with these people. And he doesn't fight for his prestige. He doesn't fight for him to be, you know, seen as this like great fighter pilot. It's just who he is. And he knows that.
He doesn't fight for his legacy. He fights for his community.
Yes. And the power of the thing is the end of the movie is so good.
Yeah.
It gives you everything you want. Everything. That scene in the woods where, and I know this is like a big spoiler, they both get shot down and Tom Cruise is running to see if, you know, if Rooster's still alive. And he runs up to him and he just shoves him down. And he's like, what are you doing? And he's like, I don't know. You told me not to think. I just, he's like.
And he's just like,
okay.
Yeah, you're right.
And then he's like, it's good to see you. You know, like, I was just like, that scene.
It felt so real.
So real. Like the camera's just like a hunting camera that just happened to be there. And it just caught the moment. And it's awkward in like the best of ways where like you can tell they're like, now what do we do? You know, it was so good.
I think my favorite scene is once they all so there's this big mission they're doing in the movie, and if you've made it this far and you haven't seen it, you're just eating up spoilers right now. But it's not like a major it's just a plot point that you'd hear about the entire movie. Two things. One, before I get to my favorite scene, but it's leading up to it. Every like action movie, no matter how much action it has compared to adventure and sci-fi and whatever, I'm thinking even Star Wars 5 and 6, we have a plan. We're going to blow up the Death Star. Here's the plan. They try to lay it out. And they try to make it simple, and they hit on it once, maybe twice. Think even Avengers Endgame. We have a plan to do this and that. This is how time works, and we're going to do this and whatever. And Mission Impossible made that plan like 60% of the movie. Not the plan working, but telling you the plan was 60% of the movie. Like they just keep
like
repeating
Ocean's
it to where by like right before they go on their mission, you know why certain things would work well and not work well with their plan. You can determine new information through the plan that you already know. That's good storytelling. Okay.
Oh my gosh.
Anyway, into their plan, they fly up through all this stuff super low, avoid surface terror missiles and their radar and whatever. They jump up over this thing and go down and hit a thing with a missile, jump back up, and then they get into surface terror missile territory. And they all have to evade all these missiles. That is, I think, the best and most tense scene in the movie.
Oh yeah, where they're like firing like their countermeasures and they're all like dogfighting.
Where all their training comes in and they're all talking on the radio at the same time. That is stressful. Nobody needed to get blown up for you to feel how stressful and intense that part was.
I think my favorite scenes in the movie are absolutely like any of the fight scenes. Like even the first training where like they dogfights all of them and he beats them all. Super fun. When he proves that he can do the route. Like he like shows up and he's like, I'll just show you that it's possible. And even I'll do it faster than you have to actually do it. I also think though, like the scene at the very end of the movie where he just takes off the carrier, and it's a real shot
Yeah.
of him being launched off the carrier.
Yeah.
And you watch Tom Cruise go from like, so like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like,
He's being shaken.
and like you can tell it's like, I'm an actor in a movie, but this isn't acting. This is real life.
Yeah.
You know, like,
And it's tough because, like, if you don't know anything about planes, taking off in a plane is hard. I mean, it's not super hard if you know how to do it, but it's like a skill that requires a lot of precision, a lot of gut and feel, a lot of experience, whatever. And taking off from an aircraft carrier is like twice as hard. You have to, every car commercial where they're like 0 to 60 in 4 seconds, you have to do that. You don't just have to know it can do it. You have to do that.
Yep.
Because you have this short little runway and you have to build up so much speed from a dead stop. And then to land back on that carrier, I think both landing and takeoff involve some sort of cable holding you back so you can like thrust the engines, whatever.
Yep.
And then start with your engines at full blast, not get any speed until you need to. And landing back on it, you have this little hook under your plane and it catches a cable and that like tugs you back and like stops you dead stop. And if you miss that, you're dead.
You dead, or you take back off again.
Or you take back off if you caught it in time that you missed it.
Yep.
But if you don't, like you're going to be tumbling off the end of that boat and like hoping that you're like level and you can take off again.
It's definitely the movie itself does such a good job of exposing how intense the job is, right? Like how intense being these top pilots are. But I think it also shows you like how they make it their obsession and then they are so good at it. Like where the movie at if it falters at any point, but I loved it. It's hard for me to falter it, you know, like to call it a fault or to call it a weakness when I loved it. But when they decide to try to steal the F-16 out of the enemy base and fly it back to the carrier, like, I'm just like, this is like writing of convenience, right? You're just like, they're like, look, we don't know what the movie's going to be like. We're not sure exactly how it is. But if Tom Cruise doesn't get back in an F-16 at some point and fight a new plane, this movie's going to suck. So whatever we got to do, we got to get him back in one of those planes. And I just loved that, you know, Rooster's in there and he has no idea. He's like, what are the wings doing? Like, why is this? I don't even know how to turn anything on.
This thing isn't on. Oh, the breaker's behind you. There's like 300 breakers.
He's like, this thing's so old. Like,
it's like somebody wallpapered every inch of that space with breakers.
It was such a fun, like, I was like, oh my gosh, why is this? And it felt lighthearted at the moment. It's weird to say that because they're like in enemy territory doing this, but it like felt really like almost like they were going to a museum. Like, hey, you want to come check out this F-16? I'm going to teach you how to fly again.
Which it's not off, like it's not totally out of reason that would happen. Especially because the U.S. military, once it's done with stuff, certain models of planes and models of whatever, will sell it to hopefully allied countries. Usually allied countries.
That stay
Or it'll
allies.
get taken because we leave an area. I don't want to get into that right now. But it'll get taken because we leave an area, whatever. That leads into one of the things I loved about the movie is that they never specified who they were fighting. Yep. I love that about the movie because it gives you a war movie without in real time telling you that somebody in the world is the enemy, which is kind of the battle we've been fighting for 30 years, is we got into Desert Storm and everything else after that. And it's like, it was Iraq because of Saddam Hussein. But then it was like some people in some countries who are not the government. And then they were between different countries. And
they had no country for a little while.
It was this war where I'm doubtful anybody on the other side had any planes, had any whatever that they actively used a ton. But like, there's no country to fight. No. It's just this group between countries trying to take power and maintain power and whatever. In the 60s through the 80s, it was the Russians and all communist sympathizers and whatever. But now it's like, I don't know.
Dude, and I love that you're pointing this out because it felt when you played make-believe when you were growing up and you like, this is the bad guy. It's the first question my kids ask every single time when we get into any movie, any show, anything. They want to know. We went and saw Newsies. Newsies for kids. All right. And it was a musical. And that was the question Cooper asked 5 minutes in. Like, who's the bad guy?
Yeah.
And they want to know, like, where's the good side? Where's the bad side? And it's crazy how it's not total propaganda when we've had Russia as an enemy, or we've had, other Cuba as somebody that's been like, we don't really like you. And we're like, we don't really like you. Like, that's not a big stretch, right?
Yeah.
And it's not naming a whole people group. It's naming a country. But this felt more like make-believe, where it was just kind of like, hey, there's some people doing bad things, and we need to stop them.
Yeah.
And, like, that's it. Like, that's the whole label. It's not a country, an ethnic group, a region. It's just, this is a bad thing that's happening. We're going to go stop the bad thing from happening.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's why there's stuff about the last 10 years of filmmaking and storytelling that I've loved and stuff that I've not loved.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things I kind of feel both ways about is the redeeming arc of every villain in the past 10 years.
Yeah.
I think Cruella had something like that. And, like, honestly, every Disney and Marvel villain, even Thanos, they're like, this is something redeeming about him. He's trying to fix something that went wrong on his home planet, whatever. And you're like, oh, I see why he's a genocidal maniac and whatever. And there's no just like,
he's just
there's no
evil.
just evil.
Yep.
But that, I think that did teach something good to like this generation that even if evil has motives that were good or were from trauma that they didn't deserve or whatever, that like when we think about, when people from the 80s think about Russia, do they think about evil? When people from the 40s and 30s think about Germany, do they think about evil?
Mm-hmm.
But that's a country. There's so many people in there
Yep.
that are not evil.
Yep.
And so to like stereotype a group, especially in this day and age where we haven't fought a war with a country in a long time, and say they're evil, every one of them, I'm glad we've had that lesson.
I think this is part of why the movie works. It's because it's not playing it safe, because it takes risks. I'm not trying to say it doesn't, but it sticks to a formula that worked before. But then it ramps up the intensity with realism.
Yeah.
And
not with numbers.
Not with
there's
numbers.
100 fighter jets.
No.
There's
with realism. Just simple one-person shots of intense flying that is really happening. And then it keeps the plot exactly what you want it to be.
Yeah.
Hey, we are some good guys that are trying to do good things, and we're going to stop the bad guy from doing the bad things. And along the way, we're going to fight for our community of people, not necessarily for our legacy or our honor, prestige, whatever it is. We're literally just teaching each other how to be better human beings and admitting that we've made mistakes. I mean, the Val Kilmer scene, we haven't even talked about it yet.
Yeah.
So Val Kilmer had throat cancer, can no longer speak. He's lost his vocal cords. So he has to use a speech box basically to talk. But in the movie, they, spoiler alert, said it enough times, they allow that to be a part of the story to allow him to come back in to the movie. And it was beautifully done, where Tom Cruise is able to come in and talk to his friend, and they have a heart-to-heart conversation through, him typing some things, Val Kilmer, through him speaking a couple things, which is really cool, and a whole nother technology thing that they actually created a voice box that's able now to mimic his voice, so it doesn't sound like a robot anymore. So his voice box actually sounds like his real voice, which is really cool. But that scene had such a health to it, where it was like a friend reassuring another friend that they're okay and that they're enough and that they're gonna figure this out. But without giving like cheesy coffee lines, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or like some stupid just do it, moment. Like it was legitimately felt like real life.
Yeah.
Like
there were so many moments in this movie that I felt like just felt real. I don't know how to say it any better. And that's why I love it.
Oh, the scene when Tom Cruise gets out of the attic room because the daughter comes home too early, and he jumps off the roof, and then it looks up and the daughter's there.
Yeah.
The whole theater laughed when I was in there. I don't know if they laughed with you.
Yeah.
They laughed both times. And then the girl says, "Don't break her heart again." And man, you could have heard a pin drop. It was it was too real.
Yeah.
Where I was just like, oh, dude, this is what happened. You know what I mean? Like, it's such good storytelling. It's such good storytelling.
It's the difference between a character with real fears and desires and characters with like cliche personality traits. Yeah. So like in the movie Free Guy, which is kind of about a video game, and there's things in video games called non-playable characters. They're just kind of empty, soulless bodies in the game taking up space. There's always a business suit guy who's like, have that report on my desk by Friday. And he's talking to thin air. He's talking to no one. But that's just a thing that kind of person would say. And in the CGI era, we had a lot of those kinds of things.
We did.
A lot of those soulless characters on screen. Yep. And that's something I've loved about the past 3 to 4 years is the realness and the authenticity and the dig back down into people's desires and fears and motives and all those kind of things.
I mean, the intensity of the movie is great from the planes, and the intensity of the nostalgia is thick as well. Yeah. But I also thought and I know this is like, for some of you, you're like, this is way too much Top Gun junk. Well, just hold on, all right? If you're still with us, I'm really proud of you.
Yep.
The thing that I loved was the tension of the movie. Rooster's career got a little delayed because basically Tom Cruise held back his paperwork, so he couldn't advance to get into the school as fast. And you find out the reason why is because his mom was still afraid of him flying and didn't want him to fly, and so asked Tom Cruise to do that on her deathbed.
Yeah.
So Tom Cruise did it as kind of a favor. Well, he didn't want to tell, Rooster that because he didn't want him to hate his mom.
Yeah.
And what's it going to change? And it's such a good scene to realize that, Maverick is carrying this weight of disappointment, heartache, pain.
And it's because he was near and not involved like he caused it necessarily, but in and around the situation where Rooster's dad died with him.
Yep.
And so like he felt super guilty about it, and he's carrying around this whole movie.
He's never let it go.
There's this extra nuance like you were talking about, but like there's more than did I kill or did I get killed in the air? It is like you can watch him be comfortable with that and be uncomfortable with the human to human situation.
Yep. And you can feel that,
and the guilt.
He's hoping that the end of the movie is a redemption for not just this movie. It's a redemption for the first movie.
Yeah.
It pulls much like the end of Toy Story 3.
Yeah.
Where Toy Story 3, they're sitting on the porch and everything, fades away.
Yeah.
It ties all the movies together. And I think that's what made the ending so good, was you felt like, he's like, thanks for saving my life up there. And he's like, that's what my dad would have done.
Yeah.
And you're like, dang. Like that, it hits hard because it's not just that movie. It's the movie before. It's what Tom Cruise would have wanted, is to give him a dad, to teach him how to be.
Yeah.
Because he loved his dad. And so if he's mimicking his dad, Tom Cruise then feels like, oh, you know what? He's going to be okay. Like he's going to,
and it's like rekindling his relationship with that guy's dad.
It's all of that. And it makes him not feel the guilt and the shame for what had happened, even if it wasn't his fault. It just pulls everything together. And
good.
It's so good. And I don't know if I can recommend a movie higher. Like, I don't know if there's a movie that I'm like, nah, go watch this first.
Like a single...
Yeah.
Because, like, we love Harry Potter.
Oh,
we love all those.
For sure.
But, like, a single one-sitting...
I can recommend it to a 16-year-old kid, and I can recommend it to a 70-year-old.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm just like, you'll all love this.
To be fair, Trevor saw the first Top Gun... probably when it came out because he's super old. But Trevor saw the first Top Gun and then saw the second one. And it meant a lot. I maybe vaguely remember seeing the first one on TV for 30 minutes once. So pretty much haven't seen it.
Yeah.
And I saw this one, Top Gun Maverick, and it's great. I felt like I didn't even need to see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, and
it's maybe more powerful with it.
I think it's more just, I kept telling Katrina this because I kept leaning over in the movie and I'm like, that's from the first movie. Because they do all these homage things where like they just slip these little lines in, they slip these little scenes in. The movies start the exact same with the same shots. the same things. It's the same footage from the first movie. The scene on the aircraft carrier where they're all just like,
literally
the same?
Or is it a recreation?
No. You can watch them side by side. They literally take almost the exact same footage.
Was the one from Top Gun Maverick filmed in 2020 or 2021?
I'm telling you.
But just like recreated the shots identically.
Yeah, I legitimately haven't looked it up, but it felt like it was the exact same thing. Like
not to open a can of worms, because I know you feel differently. That's something Sharon and I loved about Lightyear. Okay, cool.
Yep.
We don't have to talk about it. But there's so many lines that the toy Buzz Lightyear says.
Oh, yeah.
That he says in the movie. Why aren't they answering? Whatever. No sign of intelligent life anywhere on this planet and stuff like that.
Oh, the movie itself had a great, and that's a whole nother.
Yeah, it was good. Not to get on another tangent again, but the realism and it actually happening to them in real life. This is why, and if you want us to talk about this in the future, I'll say it in a second.
Yeah.
This is why I've loved Stranger Things season 4. We're not going to talk about it. We're not going to spoil it.
No spoilers.
If you want an episode about that, let us know in the comments. Talk to us at church. Email us at ryan@kingswaymo.com.
Because I haven't finished it yet. I need to finish it.
Let Trevor finish it before we do it. But the way they portray, the way they filmed the main villain in season 4 is full makeup, not CGI, other than like adding motion to parts of his look. But like he is in full costume, and there's so many pictures online of him full costume looking terrifying, like absolutely dreadful, scary, drinking some frozen Starbucks drink on his phone, sitting down, and it's really funny.
Oh my gosh. Well, I know we could talk about this for a while, and I think we've hit on a lot of healthy notes. I hope that this encourages you to either take your mom and dad to see it, or take somebody on a date to go see it, or if you got teenagers, I think they'd love it.
Yeah,
I think you all could go and enjoy it. Definitely worth the rental once it comes out. I'll probably own it. We'll probably buy it. I just know it's that level for me. But hey, if you enjoyed this podcast and you think it's worthy of a like or subscribe to the channel, I hope you will. If you're
some homemade muffins sent to our church with our name on it.
No, don't do that.
Just address them to me. No big deal.
Leave us a review on any of your podcast apps. And as always, if you've listened this far, you get a gold star. And I'm so proud of you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mom.
Also, thanks, Mom.
Hey, you have a great and glorious day in the Lord, and we'll see you later.
See ya.